Okay, what is a neighbor? What's a good neighbor? What is my responsibility to my neighbor? And I want to talk to you about how you can use a conversation like this in a very fun and practical way to get into the gospel message. So let's do a little neighbor exegesis. And I do this in the classroom, and we could actually do it in an online format. You'd have to do it in a discussion board format. We won't, but you can still at least mentally engage in participation here with us. The word exegesis means to draw out. And so we talk about Bible exegesis in the sense of studying the Bible to draw the meaning out of the Bible, rather than eisegesis, which is reading something into the Bible, something that unfortunately many people do. We read our own interpretation or our own meaning into the Bible rather than drawing out the meaning that God has placed there. So neighbor exegesis is looking at some scenarios of neighbors and trying to draw the meaning out of the picture or illustration. So we divide up into groups and we have each group analyze certain pictures. I'm going to give you a few examples here, and I'll put this up like this so that you can see them better. And I'm just going to give you a few moments of silence so that you can kind of decide what you believe is going on in this picture. So let's begin with this one. What would you say is happening in this picture? And as you're thinking about it, I will just tell you that obviously you're limited in what you have to work with. And the fact of the matter is, unless you happen to recognize this picture and know the person that did it, there's probably no way that you'll be able to know for sure exactly what's happening. But this is a picture of two neighbors over a hedge of bushes. And so if you were to tell me what you think is going on here, what would you say? And I've had all kinds of interesting answers come back. You know, the guy parked his car in the guy's garden hose, so, you know, he can't get any water out of it. Or maybe the guy is asking his neighbor if he could kindly water his garden for him because he's busy or he's not feeling well. Or maybe the guy's actually going to turn on and shoot his neighbor with water because he's mad at him. I mean, there are just lots and lots of scenarios you could come up with on deciding what exactly is going on in this picture. And you can imagine a group of people having a really good time with this. Here's another one. What's going on in this picture? And so you have two apartments, apparently, or maybe it's a home with two different rooms. Some have suggested this is the mother-in-law in a room in the house. Others have suggested it's an apartment, two different apartments, and these people totally unrelated. Some have suggested that the young lady there is banging on the wall to try to get her to stop playing, whereas others have said no, she's actually playing the role of the drummer and adding the beat to the song that the lady's playing. And so, what about the guy? Is he intrigued by this? Is he upset by this? Maybe he's thinking about singing along. So again, you try as best you can based on the information you have to figure out, what's going on in this neighborly situation. Here's another one. What about these two? Now, I'm just going to share something really funny that happened a few years ago when I was teaching this class. I asked my students the question, what's going on in this scenario? And when I got to a certain group, one of the young ladies raised her hand and said, that is a Faith Baptist Bible College faith-approved engagement where two people can obey the faith handbook and get engaged across the fence. And that may not strike you as funny, but at that particular moment, the whole class just burst out in laughter, probably because they weren't expecting something funny like that, and probably also because they're students of faith and they know the rules and And by the way, you can get engaged as a faith student, so don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Some think that they're congratulating each other because they're both from the same political party and won the election, or maybe both of them are cheering for the same basketball team that happened to win the championship. Um, you know, we really have no idea. But it generates interesting conversation. Here's another one. All right, so it appears that at least one of these gentlemen is rather upset. What's bothering him? Now, someone said, well, he's mad because the other guy is wearing the same shirt that he's wearing. Well, that's possible. I know that tends to be more the case when two young ladies happen to be wearing the same exact thing to a banquet or something. But men can get upset about that too. Maybe the guy is upset because this other guy has been making too much noise and he's keeping him from concentrating on his work. It could have something to do with something completely foreign to what you see in the picture. But again, interesting conversation. Now, this one's a little bit different, and I'll show you why in a second. Here's two guys who are obviously at odds about something, and both of them trying to prove their point and trying to defend their own whatever in this picture. It certainly doesn't appear that they are happy with each other. But in this particular case, we get a second look, and the following picture says, whatever it was they were arguing about, they must have figured it out. They must have settled the issue because now they're shaking hands and apparently have been reconciled to one another as neighbors. And so whatever the problem was, it's been resolved. Here's one more. What's going on in this picture? Wow, any number of scenarios here. This may be a young lady who is trying to make friends with a single young man living next door and hoping maybe to develop a relationship. Or it could be a brother and sister. It has nothing to do with romantic feelings. Or maybe she sells gourmet coffee and she wants her neighbor to give it a try to see if he's interested in buying some from her. You see? I mean, just all kinds of things. Or maybe he did a favor for her and she's returning the favor by offering him a cup of coffee. Any number of things are possible. Now, when you have taken time to go through a number of pictures like that in a group session and given people a chance to kind of talk and share, then you can pause at some point and say, let me tell you an old story about someone who was a good neighbor to a person in need. See, and then you can tell the story of the Good Samaritan from Luke chapter 10. But you don't just jump into that story. You've had the opportunity to ask the question, what is a neighbor? What's a good neighbor? What's a bad neighbor? What is the responsibility of a neighbor? And then you've played this little game and given them a chance to talk. And what you're doing is you're really getting to think seriously about the whole concept of a neighbor. And you use that as an opportunity to enter into the gospel story. You see, you're using real life situations in order to do that. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to do this sort of thing, if you just have a quick moment to give somebody a tract or to say something or, about the gospel. And if that's all you have, then you do the best you can with it. But this would be an example of using the funneling method where you have a chance to really prepare the soil and help people understand. Everybody has been thinking about what neighbors are and how they function. And then you tell them this story from the scriptures about a neighbor in need and what Jesus has to teach us about it. And so this is just an example of the type of thing that you can use when you're trying to help someone to understand a concept of the gospel message more deeply, more fully. And if you have that opportunity, then Great. One of the things that I have always enjoyed doing, and I would encourage some of you to consider this, is to get involved in personal Bible studies. That's a little bit more formal. 'Cause you might be surprised how many neighbors would be interested in doing a Bible study. I mentioned the one that we did with 3 couples. We actually kept that Bible study going for, I would say, a good 3 or 4 years. I mean, that went on and on and on. We went through several books of the Bible, did some topical studies from the Bible. We really hit a lot of subjects. And then there came a time when we needed to discontinue the formal study. And if you do have an opportunity to do something like a little more formal Bible study, and you want to, invite people to be a part of it, perhaps you could start by saying, we'd like to do just a real quick overview of the Bible, maybe four sessions. Let's take a month and meet on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, and we'll spend an hour. And we'll just go through some of the basics of the Bible. And then after those 4 sessions, if anybody's interested in continuing and would like to go farther, then we can do that. We can delve into it a little bit more. So sometimes you have the opportunity to start with almost like the megaphone method, get some basic ideas out there, but find that there are some people that would like to do the funneling after that and take more time to really enter into the details of the message of the Bible. So think about that. Maybe you could come up with another paradigm of your own besides that of neighboring, and ask the question, how could I use that in order to get people to be thinking about the gospel message? So there are lots of ideas out there. This is one that I think could work really well, and I hope that you'll be able to take advantage of something like this in seeking to go farther with the gospel.